Hello, and welcome back everyone to the Staff Development Nurse. Now in today's video, I'm going to do a comprehensive overview of FTAG 580, and I want you to stay tuned throughout this training as I'm going to give you access to an audit tool that will help you meet the compliance with this regulation. So FTAG 580 is focusing on notification of changes. And what it states is that a facility must immediately inform the resident and consult with the resident's physician and with the resident's authority, the resident's representative. Now, this can be a family member, it can be a friend, it could be anyone that the resident has designated that the facility can give information to. Now, the key to this is when certain changes occur, and really it should state when all changes occur, because as we go through this slide, you'll see pretty much any change in a resident. You're going to want to notify the resident as well as their representative and also consult with their physician. So let's talk about the resident a little bit. Even when a resident is mentally competent, his or her designated representative or family, as appropriate, should be notified of significant changes in the resident's health status because the resident may not be able to inform them personally, especially in the case of sudden illness or accident. Now, this leaves it very wide open to interpretation. When you have a resident who is fully competent and can make decisions on their own, you as a facility have to really read into this regulation and determine whether or not you're going to take on calling the family member and letting them know, or if you are going to let the resident call the family members themselves. And I would make sure that I document this very carefully. For example, if I'm a nurse and I'm going to a resident to explain to them a change in their medication, I might let them know, hey, Mrs. Smith, I just wanted to let you know that the doctor did order a chest x-ray for you. It's going to allow us to look at your lungs and make sure there's nothing going on internally. I'm also going to follow up and call your daughter Nancy and let her know too. Okay. Now, if for some reason Miss Smith, who's fully mentally competent, is adamant and states, no, I want to call Nancy and explain it to her myself, then as a facility following your policy, you just want to make sure that that is clearly documented. And if Miss Smith is stating she's going to call her daughter, I would definitely make sure she has a means to contact her daughter. For example, do you have a cordless phone that you can offer to the resident? Or can a nurse say, would you like me to take you to the front so you can use the phone and talk to your daughter now? Or does the resident have a cell phone in their room? And maybe the nurse can offer, would you like me to help you call your daughter now so you can explain it to her? That way, if she has any questions, I'm here to answer them for her. So just make sure you have it very clearly documented in the case that happens. Now, 99.9% of the time, the resident is not going to necessarily have a problem with you calling their representative to let them know changes in their care. But if that happens, make sure you clearly document. If the resident is not capable of making decisions, the facility must contact the designated resident representative consistent with their authority to make any required decisions. But, the resident must still be told what is happening to him or her. So as I go into facilities and I do audits, this is one big factor that I see a lot. Sometimes what I see is that in the nurse's notes, it doesn't specifically state that the resident was made aware. And the response I often get back is, well, they're confused and they don't really understand what's going on with their care. Well, according to this regulation, they still need to be told what is happening to them. So you want to let them know if there's a medication change, if there's a blood draw that has to happen. You can explain it in very layman's terms. It's easier for that person to understand, but you still need to explain it to them, and it still should be documented in a nurse's note. So let's talk a little bit about when you would notify. Well, first, if there's an accident involving the resident, which results in injury and has the potential for requiring physician intervention, you want to definitely make sure you notify the resident. You want to make sure you notify the family member or representative and the physician themselves. Now, here's the biggest factor with this, the potential. This is such a broad word, and it really is open to interpretation from your standpoint and also from the standpoint from a state surveyor. What I would say is err on the side of caution and just make those parties aware of any accidents that happen with the resident themselves. That way you're covered all the way around. Now, you also need to notify if there's a significant change in the resident's physical, mental, or psychosocial status. And this is a deterioration in health, mental, or psychosocial status in either a life-threatening condition or clinical complication. So essentially, if your resident has any clinical changes that can affect their mental capacity, their physical capacity, their psychosocial status, you want to definitely make sure you're notifying the parties that are involved in the care of the resident. Any change at all, just notify them. Again, this is a very broad statement, and we all can define significant change in many different ways, but it is one of those things that is definitely open to interpretation. So in order to prevent a citation, to prevent the going back and forth with the state surveyors, it's probably a good idea just to report any changes in the resident status to the resident, the family member, as well as the physician, because we will need to know what the follow-up is going to be to monitor that status. Now, here's a little blurb that is in the regulation as well. While the regulatory obligation is not limited to these symptoms, physician notification should occur when a resident experiences symptoms such as chest pain, loss of consciousness, or other signs and symptoms of heart attack or stroke that may signify a significant change. Now, again, these are examples of when a physician would need to be notified. But again, this is not only limited to these circumstances. So you want to make sure you follow your facility protocols. And if there's a change in resident status, follow your process of notifying the medical providers in your building for guidance. And even if it's something that is a standing order, you still want to make sure that the physician is notified and made aware by your specific means in-house. And that may be a communication book that you use that we know technically does not exist. It should never be written in a nurse's note. It could be calling the physician and letting them know. But whatever your process is within your building, you want to make sure you follow that process itself. And in the case of the death of the resident, of course, you want to immediately notify the resident's physician, and you want to also make sure that you're calling the family or representative of the resident as well. Now, you also need to notify if there's a need to alter treatment significantly. Okay, there's that word significantly again that's open to interpretation. Now, that is defined as a need to discontinue an existing form of treatment due to adverse consequences, or to commence a new form of treatment to deal with a problem. For example, the use of any medical procedure or therapy that has not been used on the resident before. So again, good practice would be anytime there's a change in your treatments to the resident, to just make sure that the resident and the responsible party or representative is made aware of any change in treatment. Again, significantly, and the use of a procedure or treatment that has not been used on a resident before. All of these things can be very open to interpretation. Save yourself the time and energy and the stress of trying to get your staff members to understand what orders they do call the family for and what orders they don't. It's going to cause a lot more confusion. Just make it a standard blanket policy across the board. When there's any new changes in the resident or new orders, that they call the resident and let them know, and also notify the responsible party as well. Now, if there is a decision to transfer or discharge the resident from the facility, the resident and the representative needs to be made aware as well, including the physician, especially if this is something like a health-related concern where they need to be sent to the emergency room as well. Now, to get full details about the transfer and discharge regulatory focus, you want to go to 483.15 subsection C in the State Operations Manual. The facility must also promptly notify the resident and the representative, if any, when there is a change in the room or roommate assignment, or a change in residence rights under federal or state law. Okay, so changing a room or roommate, we should definitely be making the resident and the family members aware, and looking at if there's a change in those resident rights, we want to make them aware as well. Then the facility must also record and periodically update the address and phone number of the resident representatives. And this can include the mailing address and the email address as well. So how do you ensure compliance with these things? Well, first thing is you want to establish standard procedures. So again, across the board, any changes in resident status, any new medication orders, any new treatment orders, it should be a standard across the board that the nurses know that they need to notify the resident, no matter if the resident is confused or mentally competent, and they also need to notify the resident's representative. In the event that the resident states that they want to be the ones to speak to the representative directly, your staff should know that they need to clearly document this specific situation. And look at these key factors. Is the resident have access to a cell phone that they can use? If the resident doesn't have a cell phone, do they have access to the phone at the nurse's station that they can utilize? The staff offer to give them assistance with dialing a phone number or using the phone at the nurse's station, or give them assistance with using their cell phone and helping to call the family member and be there to explain in case they have any questions. These are all key points that you would want to document very well if the resident is adamant that they want to be the ones to notify their representative themselves. All right, then it comes to reviewing. So review your nurse's notes. I can't tell you how many times I have caught errors in the nurse's notes, or I've found adverse events or situations that have happened in the building that didn't filter through the reporting system, but we found it reading through nurse's notes. One very easy way that you can go about this is when you do your morning stand-up meeting, you can have someone designated to print out all the nurses' notes from the last 24 hours. If it's a Monday, you will want to print out all your nurses' notes back through Friday. Keep all of your unit managers, your nursing leadership and management in that after the morning stand-up meeting, and you all can divvy up nurses' notes, highlight any areas that need to be addressed, and then go around the room to speak about those areas of concern that were brought up. This way you can bounce ideas off of each other, and you can also start to assign a to-do list of who needs to follow up with different people based on those nurses' notes. Then you want to audit. So auditing is going to be the way that you make sure any changes of policy or procedure that you make is actually effective. And we have a really, really great new orders audit tool. It's in a digital download format, so you can get it instantly from my website, staffdevelopmentnurse.com. Now, another thing that I just wanted to bring up is in the previous slide, it stated that you want to make sure that you keep the contact information for the representative up to date. One really easy way of doing this is to do it when you do your care plan meetings. So you can always have a blurb in your care plan meetings where you have it documented that you asked or reached out to that family member to see, and I should say responsible party, not family member, because it's not always family, but that responsible party, to see if they needed to update any of their contact information. If no contact information needed to be updated, you would just document that as well. Some facilities may actually use forms that they may mail out to the family members as they mail out their notifications of an upcoming care plan meeting, and ask those family members to fill those forms out and send them back into the facility. You pick and choose whichever method is going to work best for your facility, but whichever one you choose, you just want to make sure that you're consistent throughout the building. If you are utilizing word of mouth to verify whether or not there's a change in address, you just want to make sure you have a two-person witness. The only thing I would caution with word of mouth is that sometimes it's very easy to make a typo error where you put in the wrong street address name or the wrong number, or maybe even switch up a phone number or a letter in the email address itself. So you just want to make sure that if you're doing it that method, that you have a process in place to verify that the address is correct. And that can simply be a read back method. Some other facilities prefer, instead of me doing it myself, I want the family member or representative to handwrite it themselves. And that way I have a piece of paper proving this was the information that you gave to me. So you pick whichever is going to be best for you. All right, and so that is a complete review of FTAG 580. I hope you found it helpful. Make sure to check the link below to get the digital download of the new orders audit tool that you can actually customize for your building. But hey, why start from scratch if you don't have to? Thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and visit me at staffdevelopmentnurse.com. New customers get 20% off, and they check out our Ultimate Nurse Manager Planner. This is a powerful planner that is in a quarterly format. This is the only planner, notebook, checklist that you will need to carry around for 3 full months. It includes 16 audit tools that will help you stay survey ready. You can fill these out for every single month. It has a color-coded interdisciplinary team meeting chart, so you can clearly organize any changes in resident status under color-coded headings. It includes lined note pages and a to-do checklist for every single workday within that 90-day period. It also includes a blank monthly calendar. So it doesn't matter what time of year or what month that you order this planner, you customize that 3-month schedule based on when your planner comes to you. And again, it's also available as a digital download where you can print these things out and put it in your own binder. If you are one that prefers a handbook, something that's coming to you already bound, already ready to go, I do have that available as well. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, leave a comment, and check me out in the next video.